So, Sara Avant Stover is a teacher of feminine spirituality and empowerment, best-selling author, and founder of The Way of the Happy Woman. Sara Avant Stover. So, Sara, when I connect with you, which I know Sara the least here out of this group, but I feel very connected to you. And why I feel connected to you is I just feel this sweetness and this incredible power in one fell swoop when I experience you. And I just appreciate everything you've done. I've read your books. You're an amazing woman. I'm going to read your bio now. So, Sara Avant Stover is a teacher of feminine spirituality and empowerment, best-selling author, and founder of The Way of the Happy Woman. After graduating Phi Beta Kappa and summa cum laude from Columbia University's all-women's Barnard College, Sara had a cancer scare that led her to move to Thailand. There, she embarked on a decade-long healing and spiritual odyssey throughout Asia and went on to uplift tens of thousands of women worldwide. Sara has also been featured in Yoga Journal, Huffington Post, Newsweek, Natural Health, ABC, NBC, CBS, and she now lives in Boulder with her dog, Sadie. Welcome, Sara.
Good evening. Truth, number one, I did not plan what I'm going to say tonight, which is completely out of character for me. Second truth is that I almost didn't speak here tonight. Kelly invited me, she sent me an email, I think it was in January, to speak on a panel, and I asked what it was going to be about, and she said it was going to be about my business and messy experiences with my business. And I asked her what it was going to be about because I hadn't spoken publicly in about 2.5 years, which is unusual for me. The last time that I stood in front of a group like this and spoke was just a couple blocks away at the Boulder bookstore when my second book came out. And normally after a book comes out, I would celebrate. I would rest. I would kind of move into like a maturation or like a summer season of my life after all that hard work. But what happened is that the rug was pulled out from underneath me. And since that time, the past 2.5 years, we need to have a new word for what I've been through. Some of my friends are in the audience. A new word other than messy. It was beyond messy. And when I learned that Kelly had switched this to become a Truthteller tour, I emailed her and I said, I don't know if I can do this. I need to know exactly what you want me to be talking about. I thought I was going to be talking about my business. And because I didn't feel like it would be authentic for me to stand up here and tell the story of the past 2 years. Because I don't feel ready to do that. And we had a little bit of back and forth email exchange, and I realized that, I could speak about something else. And my career has been kind of peppered with me telling the truth about very messy situations. And you can find those stories in my books or on YouTube or on my blog or on my podcast. But when I really felt into it, I felt, I don't want to talk about any of those things. And I'm also not ready to talk about what I've lived in the past couple of years. But what feels like is my truth right now is to speak about the space in between. And in a lot of ways, the space in between is the hardest space to be in. And so it wasn't until this afternoon that I realized that is my truth that I wanted to stand here and talk about. So tomorrow is Good Friday, and Sunday is Easter. So Good Friday is the crucifixion, and Easter is the resurrection. Friday is the mess, and Sunday is the brilliance. What happens on Saturday? We don't hear about what happens on Saturday. We don't hear what happens between the pain and the rising, in the waiting. So there was a lot of pain in my life these past 2 years, like pain that I thought would kill me. At times I wanted it to kill me. There's a way that when grief strikes us in our lives, Kelly mentioned Glennon Doyle. Glennon Doyle talks about being evicted from our lives when hardship strikes. So when we're evicted from our lives, we're kind of just thrown out of the day-to-day normalcy that we normally take for granted. And when we're consumed in the pain, we don't notice that quite as much. But then when we come into the waiting between the death and the rebirth, it can be agonizing. It's this sense of like, I don't know who I am anymore. Like the new person isn't here. The new life isn't here. It's a lot of empty space. It's a lot of patience and faith on the best of days, and doubt and despair on the worst of days. And what I've noticed is like the hallmark of the waiting time of the Saturday, of the space between Good Friday and Easter, between messy and brilliance, is the caliber of the questions that we ask ourselves. So it's one thing to stand up here and speak our truth to others. That is a really important thing for us to do, to heal and to free ourselves of shame and to knit ourselves back into the fabric of life when we feel like something that we've experienced is just so outside of life. But in order to get there, we need to tell the truth to ourselves. And we need to tell the truth to ourselves, or dig for the truth within ourselves by asking questions. Asking really probing, really honest, really precise questions. Like, what was this really here to teach me? And even if this was 95% outside of my control, what is the 5% that was actually in my control? What part did I play in this? A question that I picked up from one of my mentors was, if this phase of my life were never to end, what is the one quality that I would need to cultivate in order to make it through and actually find a sense of enjoyment for the rest of my life? And then the questions about the future, like, who do I want to be next? What would the happiest version of myself do with this situation? What would the greatest expression of myself look like in this moment or in the next 5 minutes? And in order to get to that rebirth, in order to get to that resurrection, I realized that, and I don't think that we take enough time to notice this, is that it's not guaranteed. Like, the rebirth is not a given. The brilliance is not a given. The wisdom is not a given. We have to be willing to stay in the waiting, to stay in the questions without having the answers, to stay in the place of feeling like we don't have that new skin that's grown over us. And so I realized this afternoon that it was important for me to stand here in my truth being that I'm in a in-between place. Like, it's not winter and it's not spring. It's not night and it's not day. And that I know that, a handful of you are probably in the same place in your own way, or have been before, or will be. And this is what the space is like. It's a lot of empty space. Thank you.